Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. Today we have a review of manga chapter 905, A Beautiful World. And holy hell, this chapter is packed tightly with huge names in the One Piece world. It's hard to know exactly where to begin, so I'll start by talking about everybody's most anticipated character return, and that is T-Bone. How cool is it that just randomly T-Bone pops up again? We haven't seen him since his very tiny cameo at Marineford, so it's great to see him interacting with Sakazuki here. But alright, yeah, I guess we need to talk about Green Bull, a character who we've been waiting to see for many years now. And we'll be waiting a bit longer because we don't get to see much of him this week, a mere silhouette. But as a result of this chapter, speculation has narrowed on exactly which Japanese actor Green Bull could be based on. And the frontrunner who has emerged is a man by the name of Yoshio Harada, who played a character named Red Bull, in a film called Roningai. Also of note is that the actors Shintaro Katsu and Kunie Tanaka, whom Fujitora and Aokiji were based on, also appear in this film. So I am well and truly jumping on the bandwagon with this piece of speculation because I think the hair of Green Bull matches relatively well, as does the evidently sly smile that we can see. And actually this smile is really interesting because I'd always assumed that Green Bull was going to take up Akaino's previous position amongst the admirals. And by that I mean that Fujitora seems like the more easygoing follower of true justice that will more than likely ally with the Straw Hats in the future, thus taking up Kuzan's previous role. And Kizaru remains the neutral admiral, but I thought that Green Bull was then going to follow the trend as a more strict and serious, almost Akainu-like patron of absolute justice. But here it looks an awful lot like Fujitora and Green Bull are on pretty good terms actually, and may even be in agreement about the need to abolish the Shichibukai. And let's just talk about that for a second actually, because it looks like that time is indeed upon us. Apparently Vegapunk has invented some sort of new and cool, possibly pacifista related, but possibly not, that eliminates the need for the 7 warlords. And to me that's a pretty crazy thought, because severing ties with these phenomenally powerful pirates will surely only hurt the world government in the long run. I mean, come to think of it, there's only currently 5 warlords left, and let's be real, only 3 of them are of any consequence, because Bartholomew Kuma is under the control of the world government permanently, and Buggy, for all of his powerful forces, let's be real, isn't that big of a loss. The people I'd be more concerned about is number 1, Dracula Mihawk. As far as I'm concerned, Mihawk may as well have the strength of an individual Yonko, he just doesn't have the extended forces or the drive to become one. But really, you still sure as hell do not want that guy roaming around the New World as your enemy. Then there's Edward Weevil, whose strength is being compared to that of a young Whitebeard, and Boa Hancock and the Kuja Pirates, who are also exceptionally strong. Alienating all of these individuals doesn't seem like the greatest idea, so you'd have to think that Fujitora or the world government has a plan to deal with their newfound enemies, which is quite possibly to simply assassinate them like they tried to do with Gekko Moria. Otherwise I can just imagine a situation where we get to another war like Marineford, except that all of the Shichibukai past and present come out in full force against the world government. So whatever Vegapunk has conjured up, it had best be pretty damn good. Moving on, we finally got a look at New Marineford, which looks to be sponsored by McDonald's, complete with its own golden arch. And I guess it looks pretty cool, I don't know, I'm not really wowed by the architecture here. It looks like your pretty stock standard fortress. I think I was expecting something a lot bigger looking actually. I might even prefer the design of the original Marineford. What I do like is its location. It's been plonked smack bang on the other side of the Red Line in the New World, hence New Marineford. Something that interests me much more is the Red Port. I love that the Sabati style of bubbles are making a comeback once again. It really does a lot towards making me feel like I'm at the Red Line, because every island near this thing seems to make use of bubbles. Sabati has bubbles, Fishman Island used bubbles, and now the Red Port uses bubbles. It's an easy yet clever marker of geography. And now let's talk royalty. During this chapter we are introduced to Hamburger, Beer, and Taco. Hamburger, Beer, and Taco. And I really do wonder if these names sound all cool and foreign in Japanese, like in the same way that every Dragon Ball character sounds cool in English, despite being mostly named after basic Japanese foods. To be fair, Beer is actually named Beer the 6th, and is accompanied by an entire set of babushka princesses to go with the Russian visual theme. Hamburger looks to be American based, I say that because of the large top hat covered in stars, the very Uncle Sam style face, and his sort of Wild West guards accompanying him. Plus Hamburger, yeah, you really can't go wrong with that as an American name. Of course he is easily topped by Tacos, the very clearly Mexican-inspired individual that would possibly border on racism if he was drawn in a comic in the Western world. He has a very intriguing line though. I mean, all of these royal figures have weird quirks and cool perspectives on life, but Tacos says, if you're going to kneel while you're alive, then at least die standing. And I don't know why, but I like this line. I just do. So good on you, Tacos. I have no idea why you were introduced, but have a nice time at the reverie. We also have some female representation from Queen Mororon, which is quite possibly a reference to a type of rice cake. She's a very refined lady, sloshing around a glass of red wine, revealing some very Oda-esque levels of royal cleavage. Although her face kind of reminds me of Otohime because it seems just that little bit too wide. But then on the very next page we have the spawn of Otohime arriving, much to the delight of the journalists, including one Big News Morgans. This was very unexpected because I know he owns a global news company, but after seeing him with the rest of the underworld figures at Big Mom's Tea Party, I figured he was more of a shady guy who tended to lurk in the background. Instead, it turns out he likes to be on the front lines for big news, and this time he has stumbled upon the biggest news of all. A glorious giant mermaid princess. And you know what? Shirahoshi also has a very interesting line during this chapter. While everyone is being ferried up the red line, Shirahoshi is in awe of the sunlight, which is a really beautifully drawn page actually, and I really hope that it looks stunning in the anime and they don't fuck it up. But our mermaid princess makes mention of the fact that, if possible, she would very much like to live up here on the surface, and furthermore that she wants everybody in their kingdom to see this sunlight. Now that might seem like a bit of a throwaway line at first, but I find it very intriguing because it takes me back to Madame Charlie's prediction that Luffy will destroy Fishman Island. Now there's a whole ton of theories about why Luffy will destroy the island, one of the most prominent ones being to tear down the red line and create all blue. But I've always had an issue with that because I never understood why the entire merfolk and fishmen races would be okay with their beautiful homeland being destroyed for any reason. But this chapter gives us that reason. Shirahoshi wants all of her kind to be able to see the sunlight, which, come to think of it, most merfolk and fishmen in existence have just been kept exclusively on the sea floor, with exceptions like Jinbei, Arlong, and Fisher Tiger making their way up to the surface. So we can look at this from the perspective of liberating the underwater folk and accepting them into the world at large. Anyway, I just found it kinda cool that we got another piece of that puzzle. Rounding out the royal appearances this chapter is Stelly. We all remember Stelly, right? Oddly enough, I actually don't think he's as ugly as he was as a child, but he does spend most of this chapter being shocked by Garp, and a troubled Stelly is always a visually appealing Stelly to see. Also, his name is officially spelt with 2 R's instead of 2 L's, so it's more like Sterry now. Which, nah, I'm gonna keep calling him Stelly. Going back to Garp though, this is actually his very first canon appearance post-time skip, and that's kind of crazy to think about, because when I saw him, I just thought to myself, ah, good old Garp, instead of holy shit, it's Garp. Which is how I feel about most characters who we haven't seen in, like 6 years. It's great to see him back though, especially in such a good mood, because we left him prior to the time skip dealing with the death of Ace, and it was all very sad and moody. And just before I forget, Sengoku also appeared this week, and if you're not reading carefully, you could probably legitimately miss it. He just pops out with his goat behind T-Bone, pretty much to rub Sakazuki's face in the fact that being the Fleet Admiral is a difficult job, which is a beautiful comic moment considering just how serious both Sengoku and Sakazuki are generally taken as characters. Closing out the chapter, we have another answer to something I've been wondering regarding the Revolutionaries. The whole concept of Dragon attacking the Reverie has always put into question whether they will end up hurting characters whom we know as good, such as Vivi and Cobra, the Dressrosa royalty, and the Ryugu Kingdom. But on Kambaka Island during this chapter, Bello, Betty, and Koala make it clear that their goal isn't to topple the world government itself, but to rid the world of the celestial dragons. So in theory, the Revolutionaries have no real beef with any of the nations of the world government, but simply those that sit in the holy land of Marie-Joie. And this conversation makes me actually believe Sabo's words at the end of the chapter. Regardless of the fact that Stelly is indeed a dick, I genuinely don't think that Sabo would let anything happen to him because that's not their goal. He and Karasu are simply using the surface royalty to infiltrate the Reverie. But that pretty much does it for chapter 905. It was a chapter dedicated to character introductions and reintroductions, and really not many series could get away with a chapter like this. But it works in One Piece because this series is all about that world building. If you enjoyed this video, then feel free to like, favorite, or subscribe, and please do comment with your thoughts on the chapter. This has been the Grand Line Review, and I'll see you next time.